Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the She Is Unleashed podcast, where faith meets fierce leadership and purpose driven women rise into their divine calling with strategy, excellence, and grace. I'm your host, Dr. Mirriam Knight. I'm a leadership strategist, a clinical psychologist, and a prophetic voice for high performing, faith driven women who are called to expand with impact and integrity. Today's episode is for the woman who is building something bigger than herself. If that's you, then this is for you. A team, a ministry, a movement, and wondering how do I scale without slipping into burnout or compromise, y'all. This is something that I am personally working through in this season because I am in a season of transition where God is literally shifting so much in my life in this season that I understand that I need to learn how to build teams without losing my mind. All right. So if you've ever felt like leading others feels more draining than dynamic, this conversation is for you. And I want to encourage you to tap into the next episode that will be dropped on Wednesday when I speak to a specialist in this area. And we'll be talking more about what it actually looks like when you are building organizations with a team. Okay. So we're talking about building high performing teams without losing your sanity. And yes, it is possible, but it starts with spiritual alignment, emotional intelligence, and leadership clarity. Listen, one of the most common traps that high performing women fall into is the lone leader syndrome. You built it, so you believe that no one can steward it like you. I get it. But let me set you free today. Delegation is not abdication, it is multiplication. And God didn't call you to carry everything. Even Jesus had a team, y'all. So if he did, what about us? In Exodus chapter 18, Moses, one of the greatest leaders of all time, I can't imagine leading over 1 million people, all right? And leading them literally, physically through a wilderness from a place of bondage into a place of freedom and promise. Moses was doing it all, leading, judging, answering every need until his father-in-law Jethro said, "What you're doing is not good. It wasn't sustainable, it wasn't wise, and it wasn't God's best." This is literally what God has been speaking to me personally in this season, that I had tapped out. I had tapped out where I was as a leader, where I was in business, and where I am in business. And God is saying it's time for me to pivot because the things that He's assigning me to in this season, I cannot pivot with the same mind frame and the same structures that I have in place. And what I'm doing is not sustainable, especially when your business is so centered around your existence and you. If it cannot function without anyone else being present, then there's something wrong. There's something unsustainable about what you're building. So in the season, God is literally putting me in places where I have been forced and encouraged very strongly to build support systems and ask for the help that I need to be able to pivot into this next chapter that God is calling me to do. David Allen says this: you can do anything, but not everything. In Destiny Connections, we have what we call our H.E.A.L, H-E-A-L, leadership or high performance leadership model, where we teach this concept of expansion in our E. Our expansion phase requires two things. It requires us to release control. We cannot expand if we are so stuck on controlling and managing everything ourselves. We can only raise our capacity and expand to the degree that God is calling us to if we are willing to release control and empower and build capacity in other people for them to carry on and run with the vision that God has entrusted to us. See, both of those things, releasing control and releasing capacity, they require healing. Healing from fear, healing from perfectionism, rejection, and performance pressure. See, a lot of the times we struggle with releasing control over our visions because we feel like nobody can do it like we do, and maybe they shouldn't. And then there's also the fear and the trauma that we've experienced in our lives from where people have stabbed us in the back when we've trusted them with things, where people have been unfaithful, where they've been unreliable, and because of that, we struggle to release things into other people's hands and trust them to do the job, even if they don't do it the way we would do it. We've got to ask ourselves, What is the belief that is keeping me from building the team God has already provided? Because if you look around, you will find that there are people that God has already put in your life, that God has said, these are the people that are supposed to help you build the vision and build the dream. But why are you not equipping them? Why aren't you empowering them? Why aren't you releasing them to do the things that you are asking them to do with greater authority and autonomy? So, what tasks are you still holding on to that somebody else can carry? In the book, 2x is easier than 10x is easier than 2x. The author talks about how we spend 80% of our time doing things that anybody else can do. And the real pivot, the real shift is when we are able to spend our time, 80% of our time doing the things that only we can do. That frees us up to be excellent in the things that are assigned to us specifically. So let's shift gears real quick. Your team cannot perform at a high level if they don't understand what you're actually building. Clarity is kindness. It is so important that we share vision with our team. In Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, it says, write the vision, make it plain, so that the runner may run with it. If your team isn't running, it might not be the team's problem. It might be the vision. It might be that they have a lack of understanding of what it is that they're supposed to be doing, what it is that they're working towards. In our programs, we talk about how to create an alignment map, helping you break down your mission, your culture, and your performance expectations to bite-sized clarity. Sometimes we got to lead our teams through baby steps, one step at a time, so that they can be able to do the things that God is calling them to do, the things that are required of them, and them partnering with you towards building the vision. Every high performing team needs a clear why that every member can articulate. Why am I doing this? Why is this necessary? Number two, spirit assigned roles based on gifts, not just resumes. We need to make sure that the people that we're putting in specific roles, they're operating not just from an intellect place, but from a heart place and from a spirit place, that they use discernment. We need to make sure that people are free to exercise their gifts and not just go by what is on their resumes. And number three, systems that support, not stifle their flow. Our systems, our processes, our standard operating procedures need to support these individuals in their jobs. We need to make sure that we're not the bottleneck in that system, that we're not holding on to control so much that we're preventing people from thriving in the roles that we've assigned them to. And number four, rhythms of feedback, accountability, and celebration. When we have asked people to carry out certain tasks, we need to be able to give them regular feedback. There has to be accountability. And when they win, y'all, we need to celebrate them. Listen, we're not building a machine, we're building a movement. And we've got to treat our team like kingdom co laborers, not just task managers. Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. We need to make sure that we are very strategic in how we're building our teams, so that, again, this machine needs to work even if you're not there. It can't be solely focused on you, that you, again, don't be the bottleneck in your machine. Don't be a bottleneck in the flow. We've got to be willing to release and let go of control, so that we're building something that is sustainable. Key word right here: as we build legacy, we've got to build businesses, ministries, movements that are sustainable, that will outlive us. So let's talk about what no one else talks about. No one warns you about this. The hardest part of leading teams isn't the tasks, it's the people. This is where your emotional intelligence and your spiritual discernment have to come together. They have to collide. For the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. That's not just for ministry, that's literally your leadership kit. As a leader, you have to emulate and you have to walk in the fullness of the fruit of the Spirit in every sphere of influence. And here's the key: boundaries matter too. You don't have to be everyone's friend to be a spirit led leader. Y'all, we don't have to be buddy buddy. And here's a problem that we often have in Christian settings or in spaces where we do ministries. We believe that we've all got to be best friends. I've got to know your business. I've got to know. No, to the extent that you give me access. But here's the other part: if I hire you to do a job, my greatest disservice to you is if I become buddy buddy with you and I don't become the leader that you need me to be so that you can effectively carry out your task. When I do that, I set you up for failure. But if I can be an effective spirit-led leader to my team, you will experience joy and success in your role. And that will not only bless you, but it will bless the entire organization. Listen, when we empower our teams to be successful in their roles, we win. Jesus had 12 disciples, and then he had three, and then he had the one that he had a pattern, and he had boundaries, and he had circles of influence and access. Every high level woman needs emotional boundaries. You need decision making filters, and you need to schedule solitude to stay sane while you are leading. Y'all, we have a vision filter that we use as we navigate this space. We ask the questions: does this move us towards the mission? Number two, does this fit my current season? And number three, does this require my hand, or can someone else handle this? Can someone else lead in this situation? I'm going to repeat those two. The vision filter includes these three questions. Does this move that I'm making right now, whatever that strategic move might be, move us towards the mission of the organization? Number two, does it fit my current season? And number three, does this specific move require my hand, or can someone else lead in this situation? Because here's the other part: you may lead differently in different seasons of your life. Sometimes you may be all hands on deck, and sometimes you need to back it up to give yourself a chance to be in solitude, to be sane, to be quiet, to sit with the Lord and get divine downloads. And it's okay. You've got to build your team in such a way that even if you're not there, they can be able to thrive without your individualized, on board, hands on approach to what they're doing. They need to know that they are more than capable and equipped to do what they need to do, even if you're not there. So, what do we do when team leading feels too hard? Let's be real. Leadership sometimes, a lot of the times, is very heavy. For example, maybe your team isn't showing up. Maybe they're underperforming. And maybe you're just tired of leading people. That happens. But before you quit and start cutting people out, go to God in prayer and ask God, Lord, what is the root of this tension that I'm experiencing in my business, in my ministry, in this movement, in what you've assigned me to? Lord, is this a leadership gap? Is there a gap in equipping and training and preparation? Is there a gap in delegation? Is there a gap in releasing of control? Is there a gap in authorization? What is the gap that is existing in this space? Or is there a clarity gap? Am I not communicating clearly what the expectations are, what the role is, what the accountability is, what the flow of information is? Where is there a gap? What is causing this tension and this lack of productivity and fruitfulness in my team? And here's the third question I need you to ask as you go to God and pray: am I expecting fruit from someone who was only meant to sow? We've also got to recognize the Bible says that a lot of times we reap a harvest from spaces and situations where someone plows the field, someone sows the seeds, someone waters it, and then someone harvests it. Sometimes we're not meant to go through the whole process together. We've also not only got to recognize our seasons, but we've got to recognize the seasons of the people that are part of our team. What is their role? What is the season that they're in? In 1 Samuel chapter 16, David was anointed, but he still had to serve Saul. Not everyone on your team will get the vision. Some people are assigned to you for a season and not for a structure. You don't be so attached. And this is where we miss it a lot of the times. We tend to build our organizations around people, jobs around people, instead of structures and the need that is there. Instead of the job, we build the job around the person. And so when the person's season is ended, we are unable to transfer that to someone else. And we get so in our feelings and our emotions because they were never meant to stay. They were here for a season. See, when you are led from the spirit and not from your intellect or from your emotions and not from a place of exhaustion, you will begin to discern who is for your next. Y'all, we don't need a bigger team. We just need a better strategy. And more than anything, we need to really hear what God is saying and make room, carve room to be able to hear God's divine downloads in various seasons of our lives. Listen, this is why we created the collective and why we created the accelerated and why we created the birthing your dream spaces, because we're not trying to multiply anymore under pressure, but we want to be in alignment with God in this season. So, how do we build a culture of healthy excellence in our organizations, our ministries, wherever it is that God has placed you in a place of leadership? Y'all, if you want high performance in your organizations, you have to first build healthy culture first. What does healthy culture look like? We got to care about the people. Not just what they do, not just their outputs. We have to genuinely care about the person, the people that are assigned to us, that are part of our team. Because y'all, burnout doesn't just come from hard work. It comes when we are working without alignment, not just for us, but also in our teams. Listen, in the book, Five Dysfunctions of a Team, it says that if you could get all the people in an organization rowing in the same direction, you could dominate any industry, any market, in any competition, against any competition. The key point is to get all people going in the same direction. But here's the important part too. We got to make sure that this is true and this is real from the inception of our partnership. So we can't wait until someone is already on board to be able to make sure if we are going in the same direction. We've got to clarify vision and strategy and purpose and intention from the very onset. So, how do we get our team rowing in the same direction? Number one, we hire based on alignment, not on desperation. And applies in every area, even in ministry. A lot of times we take people on because we're desperate rather than feeling like there's an alignment between them and us, that we're headed in the same direction, or we have the same vision, the same goals. We are hiring because they have a gift, they have a skill that we need, and we're desperate. Y'all, it's important that there be alignment all the way through in the people that we bring on board and become allowed to become part of our teams, because that can literally be the breaking point of our entire organization. We have to also build on clear we have to build clear onboarding processes. We have to take people through a process where we communicate clearly with them the vision, the roles, the responsibilities, the communication flows. All of those things need to be part of our onboarding processes. And we also have to create sacred communication rhythms where people are free to ask questions, and they're free to challenge certain things and navigate change. And we have to coach and correct. Number four, we've got to coach and correct with love and not fear. And number five, we have to protect the vision and not people's comfort. Again, this is a place where a lot of leaders we fail in, is that oftentimes we're so scared of hurting people and offending people and protecting people's feelings that we have a tendency to let some things go, red flags flow, because we want to protect people. And that as a result, we compromise the vision. As a woman of faith, we have to do this, aligning our teams. We have to do this with grace and with authority. In Proverbs 27, verse 17, it says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Your role is not to coddle dysfunction in your organization, it is to cultivate excellence. Sis, if you're building something that is God breathed, but feel like leadership is pulling more from you than it is producing through you, don't do it alone. Inside the She's Unleashed Collective, we equip you with spiritual, strategic, and structural tools to build teams, businesses, and ministries that multiply without sacrificing your peace, your family, or your mental health. And y'all, we also have the Unleashed Leadership Accelerator. It's an 8-week program. The Unleashed Collective is a 6-month program. And then we have the 8-week program. This is for the woman that is called to lead, but you just need the basics and you don't want one-on-one coaching or support in that way. The collective includes monthly gatherings, monthly coaching calls, monthly trainings. The Unleashed Leadership Accelerator is 8 weeks of weekly teachings. It's really, you do it on your own. There's no coaching involved in that. But we also have intensive with the Birthing Your Vision 3-month and 6-month accelerators, where we literally walk you through the process. And if you don't feel ready to commit to 3 months or 6 months, you can just book a VIP day with us where we can just come in and talk it out for over 4 hours, and we just talk about what your vision is, what your strategies. We help you put the structure and the support in place to carry and match your mantle. Y'all, the links will be in the chat, in the show notes below. But it is time for us to build with clarity, with capacity, and with covenant alignment. Let me leave you with this, sis. God is not just elevating your vision, He's expanding your capacity, and expansion requires help. Don't pray for the nations and then refuse the team, because if you're asking God for this big vision, you literally need a team. You cannot build alone. You were not called to build alone, but you were called to build well, and to build well with those that God has assigned to. Y'all, I'm Dr. Mirriam Knight, and this is the She Is Unleashed podcast. If this has blessed you, if this has impacted you, if you think anyone will benefit from this, please like, please share, please comment in the notes if anything that we said today has resonated with you. And y'all, until next time, be blessed and be unleashed. Take care.